Hi, everyone, and happy Friday. Welcome to another AdvisorShares AlphaNooner. Today, we are very, very excited to welcome back Kyle Kazan and Gran Ferrar from Glasshouse Brands, here to talk through some company highlights as well as the state of cannabis and finding a competitive edge and being able to succeed in what has been a very trying space. So thanks, Kyle, very much, and Graham. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. How is your Friday starting out?
Well, we get started with you, Mackenzie. We always enjoy being online with you. It's just very cool. Can I ask you just an odd question? What do you think of people that put emojis next to their names on this? Does that
Clearly
happen?
awesome.
Very pro. I think it's good. I love that it's also you're just going by a single moniker now, Graham. You're just like you've become Graham. It's like Madonna, but plus the emojis.
Graham Planet.
We have an internal bet that when we hit $5 billion in market cap, I'm going to legally change my name to GRAM. So it's gonna become the actual Graham when that happens. So I'm looking forward to that.
I love that. Got to have fun milestones and things along the way, which is awesome.
I will rent a very large yacht that you'll be invited to, Mackenzie, for the name change party. $5 billion name change party.
That's all. You can name the yacht after that. I feel like it would all tie in together, which is awesome.
I'm not going to buy the yacht. I'm just going to rent it.
Yeah.
I guess you can't name one that you don't own. That's fair enough. All right. Well, then, so as we have you on, I just want to turn to our audience really quickly. One, to say thanks, of course, for joining. Really appreciate you being in the conversation. But two, want to kind of invite you into the conversation. So if you have questions or comments out there, always a good reminder that you can put them in the chat as we go along. So all that said, would love to just start with, it's been a busy, couple of months for you guys, I think, just in the space. You've posted some really strong numbers, which has been great to see, especially in the cannabis space. Maybe that's a great place to start, just sort of pulling out some highlights from the, recent earnings side of things. I'd point Kyle, maybe towards you, Kyle.
So this time, let me point to Graham and say, everything we do starts with the plant. And his team has done an amazing job out there of just growing more than we thought we would do, more biomass at a much cheaper price. I'll finish with more than 30,000, but let me start in the weeds with Graham Plant.
Yeah, so I mean, massive credit to our team. They've been doing really incredible work, and in this case, again, I'd say another quarter where that extends not only to cultivation but also to retail and our CPG, which is one of the things that I think makes us, Kyle and I, the happiest, is to really see the company executing across all the segments. Cultivation, was again it's almost kind of hard to believe when you look at it across, some of the things that's happening in the rest of the industry. We had biomass production was almost 153,000 pounds, which is up almost 150% on a year-over-year basis. And at the same time, we went up 150% in production. We brought the cost of production down to $108 a pound, which compared to $182 per pound in Q1 of last year. So up 150% and knocked about $80, which is somewhere around 80% off of the cost of production at the same time. So it was really a standout. It was the first quarter that we had Greenhouse 5 on in Q1, which again, testament to the team for doing levels of production they've never done before. And then at the same time, you saw retail outperform by like 18% against a market that was going down by 13%. So 32% outperformance of the market. And then CPG, again, they grew in a market where most people would say we're mature and actually going backwards in some cases. Glasshouse across the board from cultivation to retail to CPG is expanding its market. So if you think about, we've always said that we think the future of the rest of the country looks like California. If you think about now the broader national market, it's kind of dwindling new states to open up. So the non-accretive or non-organic growth is starting to go away. You're starting to get the build outs in some of those states. So now you're seeing the competition that we've been living with here and for 4 or 5 years. And arguably, if you look at our numbers, we may even be over the hump on that because we're growing in that mature market. It makes us feel really good for what the team's done today and B, what the future looks like for Glasshouse.
And again, I think just to comment on that really quickly, I do think, again, very successful to be able to post those numbers. I know we've had you on in the past and you've talked about having those goals and sort of things that you're trying to hit, but to be actually able to do it, I think is, such a standout thing. The execution element is so difficult to achieve. So definitely credit on having those very aggressive and kind of ambitious goals, but also, being able to meet them across the board is fantastic. Sorry, I didn't mean to step in.
No, so Mackenzie, thank you. Great comments. I much appreciate it. I think the way I will simplify kind of the way we look at the world. One, MSOs, we sort of look over the fence at the MSOs and say, hey, and we want them to do well. We always are sad when we see somebody hit a stumbling block or, things like that. But what we've seen is there's excitement when a market opens up, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at these margins. And, right now the hot one is Missouri. Missouri is just, it can't go wrong. Well, it's like, wait a minute, I've seen this Groundhog Day 25 times. Yeah. Missouri is going to be great till it's not. And then all of a sudden it's going to be price compression and everyone's going to be kind of racing to the bottom. And that's called a free market. And so us in California, we're in the largest of the markets worldwide. It's got, if you think about the fun house that each market is, it's got everything. I mean, it's got a massive illicit market. It's got a huge culture that's been here forever. It's got so much. And so when we look at it, we say, it's hard to surprise us because this is the market the fun house that we're in. It's massive. It's got consumers that know cannabis like no other place. And I think that what makes things easier for us, all the great results that, our cultivation team, our wholesale team, our CPG, and our retail team, it comes back to taking care of the customer. If that's your North Star and you say, how can we do something, get better quality for a cheaper price and just continue that flywheel? If you look around the history of retail and the history of products, most of us have Apple iPhones. Well, they've done a brilliant job of making this an essential to have in your hand and continue to do better for the consumer. Not a cheap price, but it's really good. And then you look at retailers like Amazon or like Walmart or Costco, and when you read and you listen to their CEOs, it's all about the customer. So that's what we feel best about is that, we get a lot of wonderful comments from our customers, our bud tenders, and we're just really excited. We think that we have a lot more to go. We have a lot more opportunities in this market. And someday, the call option that you get from Glass House is when the walls come down, we're built for that. Then we will go multi-state.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. In terms of, finding that strength of brand, I know part of it is very tuned in, not part of it, a lot of it is very tuned into sort of that California element, just because that is sort of the birthplace, the sort of capstone of weed, especially in the United States.
I like that capstone of weed. Let's
take it. It's all you. Put it on a shirt if you want. But in terms of that, how are you sort of continually working to build that brand? Because I imagine, obviously not all California weed is built the same. Really finding that standout brand in sort of a lot of the chaos or a lot of the noise. Can you talk about how that's maybe changed, from kind of a few years ago when you first started to now, what sort of helped strengthen that brand and really, make it stand out?
So I'm going to start and then we ask Graham because we are doing a brand refresh on what he has on his hat.
Oh, interesting. I love that hat. We have that here.
I would say this. The best thing that we can do when it comes to our brands is to stay in our lane and do what we do at the best we can and not trying to be something that we're not. We in our stores, we see brands like Fig Farms or Cannabiotics or Alien Labs. Those are indoor brands. The consumer really enjoys high-end indoors, and we think what those folks do, they do really, really well. And so we're happy to highlight. Also, we have some legacy brands from, is it Huckleberry Farms? I think we carry in our stores.
Yeah,
that's from the Emerald Triangle. Yeah, they do a brilliant job. So we have a chance as our retail continues to grow to highlight people that do really special things. And there's also, 710 Labs and what they do with their oils, we carry them. So we feel really lucky that we get the best possible prices and we keep our margins tight so that we pass that on to the consumer.
And we pay our bills, which is unique in California.
Sure.
We want them all to do very well because all of us are in the same battle. When it comes to the brands that we make, we know that because we have an amazing, the largest cultivation in the history of cannabis, it has lent itself to the technology that Graham and his team have brought, the learnings that they brought over 30 years. And so we've been able to get that flywheel going very fast to take the cost down. Yet the state of California last year at the state fair recognized our greenhouse lilac diesel for a number of large, big awards, and including the biggest, which is the Golden Bear. So we've leaned into our, and Plus Gummies is a great, really great gummy brand. And then we have Allswell. If you just say, hey, I got to get 100 milligrams and I got $10, it's not as good as Plus, but it's still pretty damn good. And so, and that's the same thing with Allswell flour, where you can get $9.99 out the door, so 40% taxes included. And then you have Glasshouse Farms when you want that everyday luxury. And so I think, Graham, when it comes to the refresh of Glasshouse, you may want to speak to that.
Yeah, sure. So I think, and Kyle mentioned that kind of the North Star and always being customer first. Part of the reason you won't hear us complain about price compression is that a piece of the reason that we believed in legalization was we didn't think that cannabis should only be, you shouldn't have to pay $4,500 a pound for weed, right? Like that's not customer first. It's not patient first. And so I think what we've done and what our other North Star is to grow the best weed for the least amount of money, AKA the best value, right? And then be able to do it at scale for as many people as possible. Everything in this industry starts with the plant. So our brands are not made from marketing dollars or famous people or, huge events. They're made from, Allswell in particular, right, is made from just being phenomenal farm fresh weed, tested, fresh, variety, taxes paid, and out the door for less than $10, right? And that's cheaper than you'll find things on the illicit market, even where they aren't tested and you don't know what's in them. It's cheaper than you find hemp in many places, right? It's certainly cheaper than you find in a dispensary in almost every other state. And it's that which has brought customers to us. And it's that which is making that brand, along with Glasshouse, that's the most consumed cannabis in the entire state of California, at least on the legal side, where we can see the numbers, right? And I think that's a testament to what we're really giving to the customer and the reason they're coming back. And it's also that vertical integration is part of what helps our retail. We've got people coming in to the stores that we own and now control with our first MSA, where they can get that value that they can't get anywhere else. So, Kyle mentioned Glasshouse Farms. We're coming up on 10 years. The brand is better than I think it's ever been. And so we want to go through a refresh and reflect what we are, California cannabis. The goal is to elevate lives. It's quality California cannabis for everybody. We're hoping, that we'll get some reforms so that those walls come down, because we know what people want. It's the great quality California weed for a good price that Glasshouse grows better than anybody else, and they want it across the nation and across the world. So we're looking forward to that day. And in the meantime, we're happy to see the growth and progress that we're making across all the sectors here in California, arguably the toughest, most competitive, most educated market on the planet.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Can I just add one little thing?
Please.
And it's a concern that, I speak, and Graham and everybody at Glasshouse cares very much about the federal prisoners that are still doing hard time for far less than what we do. But one other thing that I'm really concerned about, and that is the rise of the illicit cartels, foreign adversaries, if you will, that are coming into our country. They're growing cannabis illegally. They could be lacing with fentanyl. If you buy Allswell or Glasshouse Farms or Plus or any of our brands, you know who to come to. When we're in Chicago early next week, if we decide to go into any one of those MSO stores, we know who's behind it. We know if there's an issue that we can go somewhere. They're being regulated. And so it is an imperative right now to me. People are enjoying cannabis more probably than ever. And it behooves us as a country to not let cartels come in there. They don't treat the workers right because you have no rights. God knows what you're putting into it. And it just is a dangerous proposition. So we're hoping that under this administration that they will take active action. I mean, they've made a big deal about, hey, immigration. How about starting with cartels? That's dangerous in every single level of everything they're saying. That's really our focus, is end that, because it's dangerous for Americans.
Yeah, I definitely think from a common sense perspective for any American, having something that's safe, regulated, tested, of course, is better than something where you're really rolling the dice every time you try it, even if you're maybe saving a few dollars, although again, maybe not with your guys' products. But ultimately, I do think the administration seems very tuned into sort of more that cartel element, definitely more of the kind of law and order, side of things. So I guess whichever angle the administration comes at it, as long as they're finding the solution that allows, companies to be able to produce, good quality geez Louise, good quality product, and be able to get it to people who need it for, medical reasons or obviously for just recreational, reasons, I think ultimately is a big thing.
Absolutely.
And if you're Kevin Sabet and you're watching Mackenzie because you just hate cannabis and you just need, it's like you're Howard Stern of cannabis just to blow your mind. I would say this, even if you don't like cannabis, I'm not a big gambling guy. I mean, I have my money in Glass House. I'd rather not go to Vegas. But if you think about it for a second, DraftKings and FanDuel, now you're not going to a bookie. Now you're not going to get your thumbs broken. If you don't pay your bills, it'll affect your credit. They may sue you. If something bad, you're having problems with your app, there's somebody to go to, and it's not that big dude who's going to hurt you. So I think the world's a much better place if people want to gamble. They would like to smoke cannabis. They'd like to drink alcohol. The government should just regulate it and make sure it's safe for everybody. And then we have courts and we have credit bureaus and we have everything. If someone is harmed by our product, there's ways to come after Glass House. God forbid, but we're here. And so to that point, we just hope that, like gambling, which has now been embraced by every major sport, it has basically taken the illicit market, the underworld, if you will, and put them on the sidelines. There's no reason to go there anymore.
Yeah, I definitely think bringing it out of the shadows is, ultimately better for the consumer, better for companies, better for, the country ultimately, which I know sounds very grandiose, but I think ultimately that is true. In terms of reform, I know it's been talked about to death and a lot of people are still just really unsure about when things would change or come. Is there anything that you guys are keeping an eye on? Or again, is it just business as usual, focusing on making really good product and kind of waiting for something to change over?
Well, you asked two people, you probably get two different answers. Let me start. I would say this. There's all this talk about hemp. There's all this talk about legalizing cannabis. And what's going to happen? What we would hope is right now the new divide is hemp players and cannabis players. We're going to play it both. But what we'd like the nonsense to end and just bring it together because it's all cannabis sativa L. So I don't think I've heard any other than negative hemp news and what may be working its way through the House. I think we're all kind of watching this, scratching our head, seeing what Tom Angel is going to write next or what you're going to report on next.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, we are using our influence, if you will, amongst both the hemp providers. Graham and I actually have a call with a major later today. Somebody that we speak to, we like. We have a connection to that company. Not financial, but we have a connection. And then we're also talking with the lobbyists and some of the folks on Capitol Hill and just saying the one thing this industry is really good at doing is dividing itself. I mean, it can be the most snarky, nonsensical, me, you shouldn't be in this. I mean, it's just like if we could come together, I think we actually might work very well. And also, we know alcohol, that Texas was beer companies down there sort of pushed that away. But I would just tell you, Mackenzie, our whole goal is to unify as much as possible to get to a legal regulated market, whether you call it hemp or whether you call it cannabis. What was passed in the 2018 Farm Bill, in my opinion, no age restriction, no regulation on pesticides or anything, is insanity. But at least it was a step in a legal direction. It's how do we do this just like we do some of the other
Yeah, again, regulations having that safety element is super important. And again, I think like you're saying, there is a time for competition, there is a time for collaboration, but it seems like the industry really needs to come together as a whole, have that singular voice to at least get, a level playing field and some basic kind of regulations in
Yeah.
place. Also, a good teaser for you in Benzinga. I know you're talking about the hemp industry divide, Kyle. So if anyone is in Benzinga next week, catch his session. I think you're doing Tuesday in the morning, right? I think that's right.
My assistant Rasha has given
Okay.
me a list of places to be. So just like my wife does on weekends. So wherever I'm on the list, I will be there. But
That sounds good. I'm pretty sure
I think you're right, Mackenzie. I think
I'm
so.
pretty sure
I
Tuesday
think
morning.
it's 9:30 Chicago time.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So, I mean, going back to your question too,
Graham,
Mackenzie, I think anybody who's a fan of cannabinoids should be coming together on this, right? Like cannabis is legal. Let's admit it. It's 40 states of medical use. It's almost 30 states of adult use, and every other state has cannabinoids. They may call it hemp, but it's there, right? So the question is, how do we want it to be there, right? If prohibition worked, there would be no drugs because we've spent 50 years and how many $1 trillion trying to just say no to drugs. Congratulations to drugs for winning the war on them. They are still here. So now let's do that in a smart way, right? So the question is, do you want it in a place that taxes it? Do you want it in a place that tests it? And do you want it in a place that takes IDs, right? I think the answer to all those questions should be yes. And from there, then you should leave it up to the states how they want to deploy it, the adults how they want to consume it. But this idea that the same molecule, like the idea that we would be behind in that we would support THC drinks is fantastic. The idea that you would force those drinks to be made from THC that's synthetically converted from CBD just so that you can call it hemp is ridiculous. It's dangerous. It's not natural. There's byproducts we don't understand. There's HHCs and things like that that are 10 times more potent than THC, the naturally occurring one, right? So if you have concerns about potency, you should be 100% focused on let's use what nature has given us that we've got 6,000 years of experience with, that 150,000, 100,000 people from cigarettes, from alcohol die each year, maybe hundreds of thousands more with related cancers. That's all in a debate, right? The debate with cannabis is, has it ever killed anyone, right? So if we're going to have those two things, which we should for adults, we should absolutely have this. We should just have it tested, taxed, and make sure that it's only going to people who are old enough to have it. It's a really simple, solution. I think it's easier now to do it right than it is to try and put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? If you take Texas, for example, which we're waiting to see where it goes, they've got somewhere between a $6 and $8 billion market. You're talking about 8,000 stores, right? Probably employing 100,000 people. And most importantly, there's $6 to $8 billion worth of demand. That demand is not going to go away. If you try and ban it, all you're going to do is, to Kyle's point, hand it right back to the cartels, give them a gift, take it away from small businesses, lose your sales tax revenue, make sure that they're not checking IDs, have no idea if it's being tested right. We just need to regulate it because that is the only way to actually control something and make sure that adults can get a safe product when they want it.
Yeah, again, I think it's a very simple story and it creates ultimately a win-win. So hopefully we see it come to that point soon ultimately. Would just be curious for both of your perspectives on how this moves forward in terms of prohibition as people who are still kind of say no to drugs all in the same way and maybe kind of stall progress ultimately. Do you think that they need to be kind of educated up, or do you think it's something that basically you need to almost ignore and move beyond and focus on the people who kind of understand it, are maybe more neutral or positive to try to move things forward? What's your sort of general stance on, can they be converted ultimately, or is that even necessary to have these common sense solutions come into place?
So let me take first stab at it. For years and years, I spoke on behalf of law enforcement against prohibition. And we'd go out there and it was end the war on drugs. And I met a lot of people whose children died of drug overdoses and they were calling for more illegality. And the sad thing was, with compassion, I would remind them that their children died during prohibition because that's what we're living. Prohibition didn't work. And I would tell you, I can still picture, when I just even talk about it, I close my eyes and I can picture people that died of overdoses of heroin, that they put a hot load in their arm because it's unregulated and it was made in a bathtub in the Inland Empire or in Mexico. And it was too easy to, someone would just go, oh, just a piece of crap, person. And it's like, wait a minute, That's a mom. That's a daughter. That's a sister. And that's a person that was struggling with drug addiction. So when I look at there was no way to sway that person. I just tried to use some logic in an emotional situation.
I think that's good.
Look, I would say this: would the world be a better place if there were no drugs, nothing, alcohol, nothing that could change your mental state? That's debatable. I enjoy a cocktail. I enjoy cannabis. I enjoy to alter my mental state. And I think that, as Graham said, 6,000 is what humans do. If it's not for you, then I certainly understand. The same thing with gambling, the same thing with prostitution, the same thing with all of those. If you don't want that to happen, that's fine. But then it's nice if someone could take a step back, take emotions out of it, and say, what's the most pragmatic and safest way so that children who are not yet capable of making an adult decision don't get exposed to this? When it's illegal, all bets are off. They're going to get exposed. When it's legal and regulated, then if you believe in a free society, and we all seem to say in America, we want freedom, then the government does what it does well, and that's regulation. Alcohol is a dangerous drug. Law enforcement's there if you're driving, and you shouldn't be, because you're putting all of us at risk. And they're also there if you're selling to underage kids. So to me, it is a no-brainer. Like I mentioned, gambling. I like going to Las Vegas to see a show or to hang out with friends, but it's a fool's errand to put money down. All you have to do is look at this beautiful building you're in, paid for by losses from other people like me. So I choose not. I would rather invest in, pick a stock. Obviously, you know which one Graham and I are going to say, but pick a stock, pick real estate, do some, go gamble there where you actually can affect the outcome. So, but what I'm saying is it still should be legal. It's up to you. And are people going to get addicted? Absolutely. And hopefully there's programs to help those people if they just can't control their urges to participate or to drink or to smoke cannabis.
I think that's very kind. So being able to have a compassionate kind of view towards people who have been negatively affected in specific ways that are not necessarily at the fault of the plant, but also not letting that stand in the way of the logic of it, the real facts, the real data, and providing real safety for people going forward.
Yeah, I think there's two groups, in my opinion, to answer your question. One is the financially motivated group, who are there. You can call them disingenuous, or you can just say their incentive is to not see cannabis join the ranks of normal life. That's pharmaceuticals. Every state that cannabis gets legalized in, there's a thing in Medicare called Schedule D, which is the prescription drug spending, and it drops precipitously when cannabis is available, right? I think from a societal point of view, that's a fantastic thing. Part of the reason Kyle and I think that weed makes the world a better place. If your job is to sell pharmaceutical prescriptions, though, that's a horrible thing, and you'll do everything you can to keep it away. The other is, I'll just call it demographics, right? And to quote Steve Jobs, death is life's change agent. It's what clears out the old to make way for the new. And I think if you're an 80-year-old teacher who taught DARE, you're probably not going to change your mind. To Kyle's point, like, even when you lose a kid, you still don't realize that what you think is the solution was wrapped around the loss that you're feeling. If you look at the demographics, it's pretty clear where we're going. Kids, kids, by kids, I mean 25-year-olds, don't think cannabis is a negative thing. Kids smoke cannabis more than they smoke cigarettes. 25-year-olds drink THC beverages more than they drink alcohol, right? So those people are going to grow up to become the leaders and the people in our society, and they are not going to think that cannabis is bad. They're going to think alcohol, cigarettes, foods, processed foods, et cetera, are bad, right? They're growing up in a different world, and they're going to be our future leaders, and they're going to put policies in place that reflect their beliefs.
I think that makes sense. And I think that's a trend that a lot of us have been aware of for a long time, but I think it's just now starting to really show up in the numbers. Earnings reports for alcohol stores, or alcohol brands, are ultimately recognizing, hey, there's a new game in town, and basically people who are younger, you're right, not kids, but younger than us, are more keen on sort of the cannabis side of things. So that makes sense.
Can I just have one last thing?
Please.
When you go, let's say you're watching, I'm going to pick on Fox News, and you have Dr. Mark Siegel, or you have Laura Ingraham. And, and I pay attention because I'm always looking to learn. Is there a new study that I should be paying attention to? I care very much about this industry and the safety of this industry. But then I always look at, okay, I just talked about the emotional argument, which is somebody who lost a child. I think we can all understand how somebody could feel the way they do and how angry that could make them and could make them seem unreasonable or illogical. That said, when I see Dr. Mark Siegel or I see Laura Ingraham and they go on a tirade, and I'll always say to my wife, we're watching it, and I'm like, okay, stand by. Let's see what commercials come up, because it's not going to be cannabis since we're not doing that yet. And guess what comes up? Pharmaceuticals. And who helps pay for this voice? And who helps put by the way, well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. All I'm saying is these folks are financially conflicted. It's not emotional for them. And Dr. Mark Siegel, if he was really looking at it and talking to people, he went on a rant about seniors. And I'm thinking, I've talked to seniors. Many of my friends are seniors. They're kind of curious, and they like their lives better with a sleep gummy or some pain with, they're like, oh my God, this THC CBD tincture you have allows me to golf every day because my hands don't get swollen. And guess what? There is no real after effect. You don't get the ambient effect on the sleep, and you're not risking your kidneys with Advil. So when I'm hearing this, I respect that Dr. Mark Siegel is a medical doctor. I don't respect the fact that he's not disclosing all of his conflicts financially.
Yeah, I think that is true and unfortunate. Although I am somewhat encouraged that I think the industry has embraced a little bit more on kind of the game of influence in some way in terms of, trying to engage the administration and trying to at least educate on, why it's important. I think ultimately, just sort of the real world implications that you're right, people are finding more use for it more broadly across a lot of different demographics, does make that change over time. But I think, probably putting money into it in some way might, speed up that process ultimately.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate.
Can I out my uncle? He's 82 or 83. He and my aunt, who's about the same age, now she's grimacing if she ever watches this, but they are RV people. They love to go 90 days to Michigan, to wherever from Southern California. They will always make sure they have more than one sleep gummy a night with them. And sometimes it amazes me, but he'll go, hey, I just went up to the store and they didn't have enough. And I'm like, I'm going to get you. I'll be there before you leave tomorrow for your. So it's making the world a better place. I know Graham's saying, hey, they're going to die off sooner than 25-year-old. That's true, but they're going with sleep gummies, buddy.
Oh, people are changing every day. I think I would say people, if you think you don't like weed, you just don't know how you like it yet. Right. And obviously, there's a lot of people that like joint. My favorite way to consume it. It's a good way to, go to sleep. There's people like Kyle's aunt and uncle who are using his sleep gummies instead of pharmaceuticals. There's somebody, Noah and his sore knees putting a transdermal balm on there. Right. It doesn't mean getting high. It means that we have endocannabinoid systems. Cannabis is one of the few plants that makes phytocannabinoids, and it unlocks. It's the keys that unlock the locks in our bodies and help us live a healthier, happier life in all of its different forms. Right. And I think, if there's one thing this administration seems to be in that direction, with Robert Kennedy as HHS, a lot of the things he's saying are very much like, how do we bring plant medicine? How do we bring nature back into this? Trump has said that he supports medical cannabis. He said he supports states' rights. He voted for Amendment 3 in Florida, where he's a resident. If you put those things together, it seems like we could be on a path. We're not waiting for it. One of the favorite things for me about Glass House is we have great growth. If you look at us on a 2-year, 2024 to 2026 perspective, 200 million in 2024, talking about 12 double-digit percentage growth in 2025, same footprint. Hard to find that now anywhere in the rest of the country, that double-digit growth. And then we've already told people we are bringing on Greenhouse 2, which is another 275,000 pounds, call it $55 million. Hemp is coming, another $33 million. You put that together, right, and you're seeing 40% year-on-year growth for Glass House without any regulatory change. That is all within Kyle and I's control. We're not counting on the government. We're not counting on anything. We are going to make that 40% growth happen with what we have now. If and when those changes happens, those are going to be a multiplicative effect on top of Glass House's control and Glass House's execution. And I think that puts us in a really rare spot where we can get that growth without needing that. And then when it happens, it's going to be an absolute boon for us on top of that.
Yeah,
And
again,
Graham, I know you're going to tell Mackenzie when she travels to Palm Desert so that she can vacation, that we are going to be managing Leaf. And I know you know Jesse Redmond and Micah, but we're going to be managing their store because they're great at what they do. But we have an entire retail team that knows how to bring the best value to the consumer. So, and now you can get your Friends of the Farm points. So when you decide next year to go to Santa Barbara or to Disneyland, where we have stores, you can now, basically get a discount as a loyalty member.
That's, again, a great way to kind of continue to expand in. And Graham, to your point, I think, definitely fantastic, outstanding performance. I do think it's very difficult to stall progress over time from an industry perspective. I think at some point we do see that unlock. But in the meantime, you guys being able to execute and really post fantastic numbers, fantastic data is, a real standout. So again, great work on both of your ends.
Are we going to see you on the 20th, Mackenzie? Are you
Yes.
coming out? Because the good thing is, I don't think you're getting all kinds of invitations from every other publicly traded company for an annual meeting in person.
Well, so that is true. So I did want to talk about that. I know you guys are obviously coming to Benzinga next week, but then I know your investor sesh is coming up on the 20th. Would love to just high level cover that again. It's a great way for you to really open up to investors. Would love to just talk about it really quickly and kind of tease it for anyone who's thinking about going, maybe own some shares and is like, would love to, get some more detail just there.
So, both Graham and I have a long history of other jobs. I was a special ed inner city special ed school teacher. That was my first job out of college, and I remember what it was like to be grinding away and saying, God, I would like to invest in my future in some stocks. And we would talk about it in the teacher's lounge, and I just kind of remember going, nobody gives a shit about what we think. We're the small retail investor. We're not quants. We're not a huge fund. We're not CalPERS. And so when we had the opportunity when we went public, we said, we want to hold an annual meeting. All you got to do is buy one stock. I think for like a cup of coffee, just pass one day, buy our share, and come on, and we will give tours. You can come up and talk to everybody in the C-suite. We start with about a 35, 40-minute annual meeting. We keep it going quickly, and then it's a big Q&A. We give tours so that you can see what your money is going to. It's a brand new industry. If you have some new idea, we want to hear about it. We probably don't have time to talk about the innovation lab that we've offered. You can come up with a new product. If we make it, you're seriously rewarded. You're going to be getting a lot of cannabis in that product. So we really want that touch point, and we care about the retail investor. And right now, I mean, you guys are one of the few institutional investors out there. There are some, and we do give them their due, but we also give the retail investor their due because we know what it's like, and we feel honored to be in this position, to be stewards of other people's money. And Mackenzie, anybody that buys a share and they point it to and they mention it to us, we say thank you. I'll leave you this. I get a text from somebody. I'm wearing my glass house hat. I just got a free beer because the bartender likes it. I'll literally say, awesome. Get that person's name and the bar's name. And the next day, a hat is on the way with a note for me to go, hey, thank you for being a supporter. We care about this business like you wouldn't believe. Investors and consumers, and of course, our family, our team family.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I feel like you guys have a fantastic brand on the customer side, but the investor side element, I think that's super, super important to have that communication, that connection. And I think it really, makes people excited about owning, Glass House, I think, ultimately.
Happy to hear that.
All right. Well, I think this has been fantastic. Appreciate you guys stopping by on Friday, especially I know you have a busy month coming up ahead, basically. Any weekend plans? Anything exciting? Are you guys doing product testing? Anything exciting? What's any highlights?
Graham, you want to start?
Well, I'm getting on a plane at 6 a.m. on Sunday and heading to Chicago, so it's going to be a short weekend. Saturday, hopefully the sun will come out for our plants. We've been having pretty good weather so far here, so hoping that keeps going. And probably I'll just be packing and getting ready to hit the road for a few days here on Sunday.
Very exciting, Kyle.
If one thing I want to make sure, I just saw Noah. We sincerely appreciate you guys. Dan, Noah, Mackenzie, we really appreciate the fact that you have invested in our shares. You're one of our larger shareholders, and we track it on Twitter. That's how I get my information. My Wonder Woman that posts every day. She's amazing. Yes. Jungle Java. So we just want to thank. in regards to yesterday, we had Graham didn't join the rest of the C-suite, went to a lovely Dodger game. The sun's out, so I'm hoping to get a hike tomorrow, in the California sun. And then 6 a.m., I'm on maybe the same flight as Graham to Chicago. So it's going to be a short weekend, but we're excited. We're going to get to see a lot of our friends in Chicago. And then we're back Tuesday into the grind and finding different ways to continue to grow. And we see there's a lot of distress in this market here in California. We see everything, and we say no almost all the time. We're very focused in on what we think will help drive shareholder value and also consumer value. So, but Mackenzie, last question: what are you doing this weekend? Hopefully get some Glass House or Plus around you.
Honestly, that would be pretty solid, I would think. This is the single. I've been on a tear of weddings, so I'm having one weekend where I'm back in town, but maybe I'll be looking at flights for the 20th. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll do some Googling over the weekend, and that will be what I'll do for California.
Make it happen.
That would be amazing if you guys could make it out there.
No, yeah, that would be fantastic. But yeah, I do just also want to say as a final thought, as much as you're saying thank you, definitely thanks to both of you. I think you guys are working incredibly hard. I think, a really strong voice in the cannabis space. So really appreciate all you do from education to operation, all that stuff. Definitely appreciate you also taking the time. So thanks both of you. And hopefully we will see you relatively soon in Chicago. So looking forward to it. Thanks everyone for joining. And we hope to see
thanks for having us, Mackenzie.
Thanks so much.
Before investing, carefully consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses found in the prospectus, available at AdvisorShares.com.